Like, what am I doing? I'm doing it for the show. Field of 68 till I die.
This is the Field of 68 After Dark Show, the only place that you need to be for college hoops every single night. And we are live. Welcome to the Sunday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark here on Sirius XM Channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. My name is Rob Dauster. I'm joined tonight by former Iowa State head coach Steve Prohm, Sports Illustrated insider Kevin Sweeney, and the man that averaged more than 5 points per game at Albion College. You see his jersey right there behind him, Carter Elliott of Sleepers Media. We are presented by our partners over at Bet River Sportsbook. We're live right now on YouTube. Jump in the chat. Talk with us. We're going to be answering questions during the breaks, and I have I'm ready to go. I know I owe the chat a shotgun. We will make that happen in the afters later on tonight. Guys, this was maybe the craziest weekend in the history of college basketball, and I don't necessarily think that that's overstating it. It's the top 6 teams in the AP poll all lost on Saturday. That is the first time in the history of the AP poll that's happened. 7 of the top 10 teams in the AP poll lost on Saturday. That has never happened before. So I want to know, before we dive into this thing, I'm going to go to you first on this one, Coach Prohm. Which of those upsets, which of those losses, what was the most unexpected one? What was the craziest loss in your mind?
To me, Arizona. Arizona, especially after Colorado coming off a loss at home against Arizona State. Obviously, Arizona playing it on all cylinders. Not only them getting beat, but getting beat, to holding them, being held to 63 points and getting beat double figures. I think Arizona for sure.
I was surprised by Purdue losing to Michigan State. Obviously, it's tough to go to Breslin Center and win in East Lansing, but Michigan State was trending in the wrong direction, had just gotten blown out by Iowa, and to turn around and play such a spirited performance was surprising, and Purdue not to have enough to kind of finish despite that. I was surprised, and just another frustrating performance for this Purdue team.
There you two go, taking both of the ones I was going to say, but I'm going to double up on Sweeney. I'm going to say Michigan State and Purdue as well. I thought that Purdue had a chance to control their own destiny. It's getting towards the end of the season, Big Ten on the line, playing a Michigan State team that's really struggling. This was their chance to take a stranglehold on things. I don't think they really did. So I'm going to go with that Michigan State Purdue game as well.
I'm going to go with the number 1 team in the country losing on the road at St. Mary's. They fell 67-57. We've seen Gonzaga struggle in Moraga before, but I think with the way that they've been playing down the stretch of the season, I don't know if that was necessarily something that many people projected, right? Maybe with the way the day started, it was something that was a little bit more feasible. But seeing Gonzaga lose it the way they did, only scoring 57 points was pretty shocking. Carter, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What was it? What did St. Mary's do? How did St. Mary's find a way to slow down that juggernaut Gonzaga offense?
Yeah, I think just as a quick overview, I think they just really controlled the front court in this game. I think that was the story of this game. You have Drew Timme, the All-American candidate, coming to this game. You have Chet Holmgren, a certified top 3 NBA pick in this game. And they got shown up as a unit by the front court at St. Mary's. Toss played extremely well. Shout out to Mitchell Saxton, a guy who played a little bit coming to this game, had a show against Chet Holmgren. I mean, that front court played amazing last game. And as a big man, I always respect when the front court show up to play. So shout out to St. Mary's front court. I thought they did a great job of controlling that basketball game, and it helped pick up the energy for the team as a whole, because I think it set the tone from the tip.
I just thought the physicality. Yeah, I think when you've looked back at the teams that have beaten Gonzaga recently, you've thought about, the athleticism overwhelming Gonzaga, and the Baylor game, obviously, Duke as well earlier in the season, it was an athletic edge that won in the game. And St. Mary's didn't have an athletic edge in this game, but what they did was they executed like crazy, and they were physical, and they made Drew Timme work, and they made Drew Timme feel, Matthias Toss. And I thought Toss was just tremendous defensively, and he's been like this all year. In terms of some of the big men he's dealt with, in the WCC and in the non-conference as well. He's been a really tough guy to score on, but, Drew Timme doesn't shoot 2 for 10 from the field. He just doesn't do that. He is as consistent as he come. He has burned St. Mary's before. And today Matthias Toss was not going to let it happen, or yesterday, Matthias Toss was going to let it happen. So I think you combine that with, a bunch of really strong individual efforts. I thought Kuzi and Johnson played as well as they could have and never left the floor, which was huge. You mentioned Carter Saxon, what he was able to do for them. I mean, it was just a balanced performance. It was a clinical performance. And it was just, I was just so impressed with the fact that they never let Gonzaga make that sustained run. I mean, that is what they're known for. They're as good as anyone. And, that 10-0, that 10-0 kill shot, as Evan Miyakawa, our friend over the analytics world, refers to it. Gonzaga never had that run. They never had that push that allowed them to take over the game.
Yeah, I think, number one, it's a tough place to play. Those fans, you can see, they're right on top of you there. I mean, they are literally a step away from the floor. But the notes I just took down from that game is, number one, we talked all year long about bench play from Gonzaga, trying to really extend their rotation. No points from the bench. And then, like you guys already touched on, Timmy and Holmgren combined 12 points, to where St. Mary's said, hey, we've got to control tempo. And then can those three guards beat us? And to hold Gonzaga to 57 points, if I'm a coach going forward, whether it's the West Coast Conference or as we go into the NCAA tournament, the two games a note that you really got to hone in on and prep and look at is the Tarleton State game earlier in the year and this St. Mary's game, because these games, they kept Gonzaga's offense at bay. They kept them in the half court, and they kept them out of transition. And when's the last time? I think we talked off air, Kevin, I'll give you the credit for finding the research, but 2010 is the last time Gonzaga's had 4 assists or less. That's 12 years. Only 4 assists, and then obviously 36% from the field on a team that's offensively phenomenal.
Yeah, the thing about Gonzaga is they lead the nation, or they were top 3 in the nation in effective field goal percentage, defensive effective field goal percentage, 2-point field goal percentage, and defensive 2-point field goal percentage. Their whole defense is built around this idea that we have this 7-foot monster in Chet Holmgren that's going to erase everything at the rim. Their offense is built around the idea we're going to be able to space the floor, get the ball to Timmy, and be able to let him kind of go to work and do his little mustached ballerina kind of footsteps and find a way to get seals and all that kind of stuff. And St. Mary's outscored them in the paint. They put up 40 points in the paint, and they held Drew Timmy and Chet Holmgren to a combined 5 for 16 on 2-point field goals. You never see that happen. You never do. So I want to ask you guys this, and I think Prohm, I'll go to you first on this one. Was this a product of two rivals that know each other really, really well? Was this a product of Gonzaga getting a little bit bored in league play and not realizing that when you go into Moraga, it's a little bit different than when you're playing at Pacific or when you're playing at Pepperdine? Or is this just St. Mary's is really damn good?
I think a little bit of everything. I think obviously St. Mary's showed last night they're really freaking good. I mean, they're a good basketball team. Obviously, Randy Bennett's one of the top coaches in the country. But I think, number one, these teams have gone head-to-head, 1-2, and had West Coast Conference for years. And I think they know each other so well. St. Mary's, to them, they knew how big this game was. And then when you listen to, Gonzaga afterwards, they talked about the physicality. They talked about them being a quicker and more tougher team, last night. And that maybe, it's kind of late February, getting to early March, they can be a little beat up and worn down, to where, they need to get home, get freshened up, and be ready to go win the West Coast Conference tournament and then go on to the NCAAs. But I think, number one, they know each other so well. Number two, it's a phenomenal basketball team, really well coached and tough. And then 3, it's a team that, obviously controlled tempo. And if you ever been to Moraga, California for a game, it's a phenomenal environment.
It's a high school gym that they're playing in, right? It really is kind of like a glorified high school gym, and it creates an awesome environment. Sweeney, real quick, let me ask you this. Is there any chance that Gonzaga falls off of that 1 seed line?
I don't think so, especially with the way that WCC protects their top seeds. Gonzaga only have to play 2 games to win the conference tournament. It would be against San Francisco or BYU, and then St. Mary's or theoretically Santa Clara, I guess. So there's not really room to have a bad loss. I'd be stunned. Maybe there's potential for them to lose the number 1 overall seed and have to go somewhere other than out west, but that would require a loss and then Arizona, I think, winning the Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah, Carter, does the way that this game played out, is there now a formula to beat Gonzaga?
I hate doing like the lazy take in this game that Gonzaga was taking a break or, they just were getting kind of bored, but it kind of seemed like that in this game. Like, I know I gave credit to St. Mary's front court, but look, there was a lot of shots and a lot of shots by Chet and Timmy that go in on a nightly basis. And they really just weren't falling and they seemed out of sync and they really just couldn't get back on track. And like Coach said, like these St. Mary's guys have been playing against these guys for 4 years now, losing to these guys for 4 years. They finally get them at home on senior night. These guys have been losing at them for the past couple of years. There's a lot to play for in this game. So I think they really just stepped up. I just don't see Gonzaga playing that bad. I just don't see it happening again. I think that they have the ability to be physical in the front court. So I just think they're going to kind of mark it up as just a little blimp in the road. And I think they're going to kind of move forward from this. I'm not too concerned about them overall.
I think the other thing too, you circle from that. If you look at St. Mary's, they went undefeated at home last night by winning that game. And I believe, and I could be wrong here, I believe I read this afternoon, that's the first time they've had an undefeated home stand in Moraga. And so, senior night, chance to go undefeated, Gonzaga, them guys are going to be ready to go. ESPN. And so it's not shocking to me that they got beat last night.
And this is a quick take, Rob, but this is the best coaching job Randy Bennett has done in his whole career. If you look back, I mean, they're going to have the best seed they've ever had in the NCAA tournament. And they don't have a high level pro. Like you go through like Jock Landale, Jordan Ford, Della Vedova, Patty Mills, like on the teams that they've had that have been elite, they've had a close to an NBA guy. There's no close to NBA guy on this team. There's some guys who can be successful in Europe. There's no one close to the NBA on this team, and they're gonna have the highest seed ever at St. Mary's. Randy Bennett is doing the best job he has ever done at St. Mary's. I think it should be pointed out.
Their star point guard is a walk-on. I think it also should be, or was a walk-on. He's on scholarship now, but Tommy Kuzi walked on to the St. Mary's basketball program. All right, I want to get to Gonzaga before we move on to the next, get to Arizona before we move on to the next segment. Carter, I'm going to you first on this one. Arizona lost by 16 at Colorado. Arizona has also lost their last 5 games at Colorado. 5 of the last 6 Pac-12 champions have lost at Colorado. And I think that there's less than one team a year on average in the Pac-12 season that sweeps that Utah and Colorado road trip. Are you concerned about the Wildcats at all after that loss?
I was concerned about the Wildcats, honestly, going into that game. I think last night was what Arizona is as a team. Yes, it was a tough road game. Like you said, it's a tough place to play with Colorado and winning there. But the fact of the matter is, I think that Arizona is one of the teams that has good point guard play, but they also have volatile point guard play. Like you either get a very high ceiling and it looks great and, Kirk Kreese is getting triple doubles. And then you get a floor where it's just he's really not, he's giving you nothing on both ends of the floor. And I think that affects the team as a whole, of course, being the point guard and being the person who runs the team. So if he was able to kind of find a middle ground at times, and it's not so much having the lows that low floor and that high ceiling, I think it would work out a lot better for them.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to say this real quick. Here are Arizona's best wins. They've won at Illinois, right? They've beaten UCLA at home, who might be fraudulent. They've beaten USC at home, who might be fraudulent. And then their 4th best win is probably Wyoming, right? And then maybe Wichita State. I don't know where you want to throw Michigan in that mix. I don't think Michigan's very good. They're probably in that fraudulent category as well. Sorry, producer Greg. But if you look at what they've actually done this season, they don't have all that many great wins. Are they a product of metrics, a weak schedule and metrics that allow them to run up the score on people with the way that they play and put these, game the system almost, so to speak? Is there anything to that, Sweeney?
I don't think you can be as dominant as they have been and have some good wins too and been competitive in every game, really with the exception of, Colorado, and that was competitive for 35 minutes. I don't think you can be that good and not be an elite basketball team, right? I really do believe this team can be special. I think, like Carter said, that there's a real downside here with their point guard play. And I think at times they are so explosive offensively and they play so fast and they can put 15 on you so quickly that you can forget about the times when they don't look so good. I mean, you can look back even, right? They beat Washington by 24 points. They were down double figures in that game, right? And they pounced on them quick and all of a sudden it's over again. You look back, I mean, there have been so many games where it just the deficit vanishes in a hurry. They trailed by double digits against Arizona State and then rallied and won it. I mean, it's just all season long, they've been able to have bad moments and surge back. And I think if you're kind of wondering about their ability to win in March, I think that's concerning because I don't know how easy it's going to be to put together a 12-0 in March Madness, right? It's not as easy as it is on a Tuesday night in the Pac-12. Just that's the reality. But I do think that they're an elite basketball team because you don't accomplish what they've accomplished, regardless of schedule, if you're dominating like this, right? I mean, their schedule is no worse than Gonzaga's in the in conference play, and they're just as dominant. So I don't think that there's a case to say they're not elite. I think it's a question of can they win 6 games in March with how volatile they can be really inside of games.
Probably.
Yeah, I think they're an elite basketball team. I mean, you don't play a high major schedule and be in the Pac-12, one of the Power 5 leagues, and have 2 losses, and we're about to go to March 1st and not be an elite team. I mean, they lost twice, I believe, right? And then did they lose at Tennessee? Mm-hmm. And
they should have won that game. I'm going to blame that one on the officials. It has nothing to do with the fact that I may have had a little bit of money on Arizona in that spot at Bet River Sportsbook, but they did lose at Tennessee. They were robbed.
So they've lost at Tennessee and then the 2 conference games. So 3 games, but the Tennessee game was a battle. I mean, was a really, really good basketball game. So that shows that they've got some toughness against what is Tennessee known for? Toughness, defense. So they showed up, and then to go to Illinois and win, I think that's a phenomenal win. It's a tough place to play. And I think what Tommy Lloyd said after the game a little bit was this doesn't change anything. And the one thing we forget is they were up by 5 at halftime. I mean, they were up at half. I mean, they played a really good 20, and like Kevin said, maybe even 30, 35 minutes. But they're still in position to win the Pac-12. You know, they're at USC. That'll show a lot about their character to bounce back because this is their first kind of, adversity. They got a legitimate chance to lose 2 games in a row, and they're going to play a good Southern Cal team. But then they come home for Stanford and Cal where they can win the Pac-12 and then maintain a number one seed.
All right, well, listen, we got to pay the bills here really quick. But coming up next, I am going to tell you why I think Purdue is fraudulent this season.
Clear 90 seconds.
All right, so we got some questions coming in from the chat right now, which, by the way, if we get that up to 100 likes, Carter, what do you got there? Yeah, we're going to be shotgunning
nice little cold brewski ready to go.
Yeah, we're going to be shotgunning these if we can get 100 likes.
Will it be cold after an hour of sitting on your desk during a show?
No, because the lights are about to run up quick. I can feel it. I feel the energy in the chat tonight. I like it.
Shotgunning in the second break.
All right. So we got some questions coming in from the chat. Number one, I don't have a name for it, but did this performance change your mind about where Chet Holmgren should be drafted? Carter, let's go to you first on that one.
1 minute.
I don't. No, I really don't, because I think all freshmen have had that moment. It's just that, unfortunately, he had his moment when Gonzaga's, one primetime or, very few primetime everyone's watching ESPN game. So it looks bad, but I feel like other top prospects have had those type of games. It's unfortunate, but they need to feature him more, I think. Honestly, that's what I got out of that game. I don't like how they make him a role player. He's your number 1 pick. Like, act like it.
Yeah, I would still take Jabari number 1. I would still take Jabari number 1, even before this game, after this game. Is that a hot take?
No, I would take Jabari. I just think that Chet needs to be more engaged and deal with the physicality better, right? And I think we'll see it in March, right? I mean, I think that was the knock on him in the non-conference against some elite teams they played, was he didn't do a great job handling that, physicality. And he's been so much better in WCC play. And
10?
I think yesterday was a kind of turn back the clock game.
Yep. All right. We'll get to the other question on when we get to the next break. And we are back. This is the Field of 68 After Dark. I'm Rob Dauster. I have Carter Elliott, Kevin Sweeney, and Steve Prohm here with me. We are on Sirius XM, channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We are streaming live over on YouTube right now. Make sure you hit that like button, you hit that subscribe button. All of that stuff really does help the channel if you are watching there. Jump in the chat, ask us questions. We will answer them during breaks. All right. We got to talk about this Big Ten race, because the Big Ten, I think, is the most entertaining and exciting and interesting league championship race that we have coming down here at the end. We had coming into the weekend, there were 4 teams within 1 game of first place. Purdue lost at Michigan State. Wisconsin won at Rutgers. Illinois beat up on Michigan. I believe that was on the road. And then Ohio State lost at Maryland, which means that we now have a situation where Wisconsin is heading, I believe they're heading on the road to play at Purdue with the chance to win.
They host Purdue.
They host Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue.
Oh, that's right, because Johnny Davis went nuts in Mackey. So they host Purdue with a chance to more or less effectively win the Big Ten regular season title outright, because Nebraska is the last team that they play, and Nebraska does not count as a basketball team in the year of our Lord 2022. Prohm, I'm going to go to you first on this one on Purdue. I've said it over and over again. The issues that they have at the point guard spot and defensively, it's a little too much for me to buy into them as a Final Four threat. They went on the road and they lost to a Michigan State team that had, Friends carded. They had lost 5 of the last 6, 3 in a row. We were talking about them as potentially missing the NCAA tournament. How worried are you about Purdue, Pro?
I still like Purdue. I like them. I think they're a very good basketball team, but I think the one thing we've hit on all year and people have talked about their weaknesses against their strength is the guard play. And you look at when you break down the Michigan State game, the guys that delivered were, the 2 big guys, and then Jayden, those guys, had the bulk of their points. Their guard play struggled, and then Sasha's got to have more than 2 points for them. I think, he can't go 1 for 6. He's got to make shots, and they got to take care of the ball from that standpoint. They had a great opportunity, obviously, to put themselves in a position for a Big Ten championship. But I wouldn't be surprised if Purdue can go to Wisconsin and win. The Big Ten, they always seem to end up with a 3-way tie to me. I've said this before on this show, like it always seems to end up with a 3-way or a 4-way tie. Wisconsin controls its own destiny to win it outright. But if they get beat by Purdue, you're probably looking at a 3-way champion this year with Purdue, Wisconsin, and Illinois.
I think, I talked to a Big Ten coach in December about Purdue when Purdue was scorching hot, right? You thought Purdue could be the number 1 team in the country. And he said, look, everybody in this league knows that the way you stop Purdue is you should stop Sasha. And Sasha Stefanovic was a non-factor in this game. Like, he didn't have a clean look. It felt like really all night. They did a tremendous job, Michigan State did, on him. But I think the larger concern with Purdue continues to be defensively. And I think one of the things that really, really concerns me is teams have a habit of producing career nights for their point guards when they're playing against Purdue. And AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker combined for 19 points, 10 assists yesterday. Walker hits the game winner. Hoggard really controlled the second half. But you go through, right? Like let's go back to the Michigan game where Purdue got hammered. Devontae Jones had
Sweeney
11 points and 10 assists. He was tremendous. All right, let's go back to the Indiana game when they lost on the road. Rob Finney, career night. Xavier Johnson, maybe his best game as a Hoosier, right? Like these aren't world beaters that are torching this Purdue defense. Like at some point, again, great that these guys are stepping up in big moments, but it's concerning that these point guards that are struggling the rest of the season, like we talk about Indiana, we say, man, the point guard play needs to be better. Everyone's saying, yeah, the point guard play needs to be better. Against Purdue, the point guard play is pretty darn good. And I think that's a sign about the Purdue defense.
Yeah. And the other thing, really too, when you echo on that game is to win on the road. I mean, Purdue turned it over 17 times, and then Michigan State shot 45% from 3. But I think the one thing Michigan State showed in that game is I think the one thing to me when I look at their Michigan State is they've got a lot of balance. And I think they had 6 guys get 8 or more. And so their balance was at a high level on Saturday, and that gives them a chance to win if they can, kind of divvy up the scoring a little bit. But I still like Purdue, but obviously there's the question marks because of the guard play.
Yeah, Carter, I'm going to let you talk your shit about Michigan State here in 1 second, but I do want to make one point. Okay. Purdue, the way that they're built, elite offense, number 1 offense in the country, sub 100 defense, according to Ken Pom. The 2 teams that reminds me of, 1, last year's Iowa, right? They lost in the second round. They got smacked by Oregon. 2012 Missouri, right? They had the best offense in college basketball, and they were ranked 154th in defensive efficiency. That team lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Norfolk State. Shout out to Kyle O'Quinn. So to me, like this is the Purdue is the formula for a team that gets knocked out of the NCAA tournament early. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Carter, tell me a little bit about Michigan State. And then I know that you were at the Michigan-Illinois game today. How good are the Illini? Can the Illini end up finding? Are they going to be able to find a way to win this thing?
Yeah, so let me comment real quick on the Michigan State Purdue thing. Like, as much as I loved seeing my Michigan State Spartans get that win, that was such an indictment on how bad Purdue is defensively. Like, as good as they are offensively, like defensively, no. Like you mentioned at the top of this show that I'm a guy who averaged 5 points a game in college. I would love to see Purdue on defense. It makes no sense to me that these guys are this bad on defense as far as them just not wanting to buy in to playing defense. They have athletes. Jaden Ivey should be a good defender. Sasha Stefanovic is not a world beater or quick by any stretch of the means, but he should be an okay defender. He's 6'5". You have guys like Eric Hunter as well. The fact that they aren't a better defensive team is so scary to me, and it hasn't improved throughout the whole year. So that's the reason why I'm kind of out on them. And they made Michigan State basketball team look good in the half-court offense when we haven't looked good in the half-court offense all year, and we were able to do whatever we want. So as much joy as that brought me, it was more of an indictment on Purdue's defense, and it's definitely scary hours for the boys at Mackey. But to comment on Illinois, I think that, I've kind of been staying strong on my fact that I think if I had to pick a Final Four team from the Big Ten, it would be Illinois. I think that they have a dominant force in Kofi, and the way that Plummer's shooting the ball, Trent Frazier is a dog by any I don't care what numbers you look at. He's just straight dog, just a dog. Like, you throw him out there. If I want to go to war with a dude in the Big Ten, like, give me Trent Frazier, because he's going to give it to you and he's going to go every single night. So the fact that you can have a national player of the year in the candidate in the middle, like Kofi, who's as dominant as he is, and he's able to kick out to guys and be surrounded by 40% 3-point shooters. I mean, I think it works extremely well. I think they just need to kind of figure out things with how Curbelo is going to fit into that fold a little bit, but I really like that team, and I think they're out of the Big Ten. They would be my pick to kind of be able to make that Final Four run.
Yeah. So Ohio State lost at Maryland today, which probably eliminates them from this conversation, right? I can't imagine that everybody else is going to lose every game that they play. It's just not going to happen. So that means that on Tuesday we have Purdue and Wisconsin playing, like I mentioned, what is it, a de facto Big Ten regular season title game, especially if Wisconsin's able to find a way to win. Prohm, going to you on this one, man. The last time that we saw these two teams play, Johnny Davis looked like the second coming of Kobe Bryant, had 37 points, 14 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and took over in Mackey Arena. How does Purdue stop him? How do you slow him down? Is there a way for them to do it? And do you think Wisconsin's going to find a way to get this win?
I mean, Jaden Ivey's going to have to step up, from a defense, because you got to think he's the one with the length and size and athleticism to guard Johnny, and obviously those coaches are going to make the best decision for their team. But if I'm just looking at rosters and matchups, you would think he's the one that's got to take it on. And obviously those are the high end draft pick guys, or the guys that are climbing up draft boards, from that standpoint. But it's a great opportunity for Wisconsin to put themselves at least to get a share of the league championship on Tuesday night. But I think Purdue's come so far to where every time we've kind of counted them out, they've won a big game. Now, obviously, their guard play's got to be better. And the funny thing about it is, we made in those point guards numbers about all these other teams. The one thing Purdue does in transition is usually make it really, really hard on opposing point guards, because they're jamming the outlet and denying the point guard and picking him up and really making tough on him. And so I would not be shocked if Purdue went in there and beat Wisconsin on Tuesday night. And then, just like I said in years past, we'll have a 3-way champion, and Carter's, Illini will jump in there and get a share of the championship, and deservingly so, because what Illinois has been able to do, the bumps and bruises and things that they've been through with suspensions and injuries for lengthy amount of times, guys in and out of the lineup, for them to be able to weather all the storm and be in position to win a Big Ten title, hats off to them.
I was at the first meeting between Wisconsin and Purdue. I'll be at the second one. I'm very excited about that game at Madison on Tuesday night. Jaden Ivey did a much better job defensively on Johnny Davis than anyone else for Purdue. Like, so Jaden got 2 fouls very early in that ball game, like 6 or 7 minutes in, and they did play him some of the rest of the first half, but they didn't guard him. They didn't match him up with Johnny to try to protect him, which made a lot of sense. And when Johnny got Eric Hunter on him or Isaiah Thompson, it was game over. I mean, he's too strong. He's too big. Like he was feeling himself in the mid range. Like, there was nothing you could do to stop him. And I think Jaden has to take this matchup personal. Like, he knows that, Johnny, got all the scouts' attention when these teams met the first time.
We want to see that, right? Like, I feel like that's the knock on Jaden right now at this point, is that he's this unbelievable talent, but we've never seen him to this point step up and say, okay, that guy's kicking my ass. That's not happening. Right. I think this is not just a big moment for Purdue's season, but I think this is a big moment in the narrative of who is Jaden Ivey as a player, who is he as a prospect, what is he going to be at the next level? Like, these are the moments where you want to see that dude step up and say, no, F that. Like, I'm winning this matchup. That is not happening again. I got my ass kicked last time. That is not happening again. Right?
Yep. 100%. Right. It's a mindset thing. And I think it's on both ends of the floor, right? Like, I almost worry that Jaden's going to come out and try to do a little bit too much. Like, I thought that in the first half against Michigan State, when things weren't working, Jaden was super aggressive, which at times he hasn't been. But I thought it was to the detriment of Purdue's offense because he was turning the ball over. He's a little bit wild. I'm just really curious to see what his mindset is going to that game. Is he in, I need to kill because this is my draft moment. This is our Big Ten championship moment. Or does he come in with the composure of, look, I've been in big games before. I've played in the NCAA tournament. I need to let the game come to me. We need to get our big men involved because that's how we win. We're Purdue, and I'm going to make my plays when it matters, and I'm going to really lock down Johnny Davis. I think if he does that, I think that will be to the success of Purdue. I don't think Jaden needs to dominate this game with the ball in his hands. He needs to dominate the game with how he controls the game and with how he defends Johnny Davis.
Yeah, he needs to lock down Johnny Davis. The Big Ten is the weirdest league in the conference, or weirdest league in the country, because it feels like with all of these great home court advantages, nobody actually wins at home. Wisconsin has beaten everybody on the road, can't beat Rutgers in their own building. Listen, coming up next, we're going to talk about the SEC. Kentucky lost at Arkansas. Auburn lost at Tennessee. Is there a team to beat in that conference? I'm going to tell you guys in just a minute.
Clear, 90 seconds.
All right, we do have a couple questions in the chat. Steve, I'm not going to put this one on you. I'm going to Sweeney first on this one. Is Jim Boeheim going to retire after this season?
He keeps saying no. I will count on Jim Boeheim being retired when the ball is tipped on the first game in November, that he's retired. I will believe
that Jim Boeheim is retired when I see that last shovel of dirt go on his casket. That man is going to coach until he is in the grave. That is how he is wired, how he is built. Carter, is Arkansas a legit Final Four team? That is from Andrew in the chat.
1 minute.
I'm not going to go that far. I don't think that they are a legit Final Four team to me, but that's more so just an indication of everybody in the country. I don't know if anyone is really a legit Final Four team. It's just a bunch of aggressively okay teams across the country. So I'm not gonna. I hope Mama Hog's not listening to this, but they're not my Final Four yet.
Mama Hog's gonna be coming after you, Pro.
I do not want that smoke.
This is from. It feels like a half dozen people are talking about this right now in the chat.
30.
But if you were advising Drew Timme, would you tell him to come back to school next year?
Man, I think it's twofold. When you look at a lot of these guys, is with the NIL. What can you make from the NIL? If it's not a situation where you're securely going to be in the
10.
NBA, or may have to go overseas, why not just stay there? It's an unbelievable spot. NIL.
And we are back. It is the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live on Sirius XM Channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We're still streaming over on YouTube. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in the chat, ask us questions. We answer them during our breaks. Rob Dauster with Carter Elliott, Kevin Sweeney, and Coach Steve Prohm. We got to talk about the SEC, guys, because the SEC had the two most hyped matchups, I think, coming into the weekend. Kentucky went into Arkansas and lost by 2. They were able to cover if you got Arkansas laying 2.5 points, which was good for this guy. But I think, to me, Steve, the big takeaway, JD Notae, that dude can go with a capital G.
Yeah, him and Jalen Williams. I think Arkansas may be the hottest basketball team in the country right now. I mean, they're 13-1 in their last 14 games, and they're sitting at 0-3, obviously unranked at the time, and now they're a game out of first place in the SEC. I mean, they're a game out. Think about that. And they've done a phenomenal job. Obviously, JD Notae is phenomenal, but I love Jalen Williams as well, and they've got a great cast of guys. And Bud Walton, it is extremely, extremely hard to win there. Phenomenal place to play. And I still think Auburn wins the SEC because of the way the schedule falls, but Arkansas is the hottest team in that league right now.
Nobody's playing better. I mean, you mentioned Notae, Rob. I mean, in a year where it feels like every time we hop on, we say, man, X team has questionable guard play. X team doesn't have the point guard. I don't know how you want to define as JD Notae a point guard is likes the point guard when he's on the floor as Devo. Like, I don't care. That dude balled the heck out with the ball in his hands yesterday. He hunted shots. He was great in the ball screen. He was really good in isolation. He made some really tough twos. I mean, big shots that kept the momentum on Arkansas side when Kentucky would make a push. And it felt like the energy was shifting because of how dominant Oscar was on the other end of the floor. I mean, JD Notae was spectacular and belongs in the conversation among the best guards in the country. I mean, I think of him as, again, I mean, if you're going through the list of great guards, you probably put Mathurin on there. You probably put, a Wendell Moore type guy on there. But I think Notae is really, I mean, Johnny Davis, I think would be my number one guard in the country. Ivey right there as well. But the way that Notae has played this year, I mean, yesterday was the capper, but he's been fantastic and changes this thing for Arkansas. Because when you have, guys who can break you off the bounce like Notae and Devo and Likes, you have these switchable forwards and Tony and Umude. Williams is your most unselfish player up front, and he has great touch around the rim. I mean, that's a scary combo. Like no one is playing better basketball in the SEC right now than Arkansas. This is a team that, to me, they can go to a Final Four. Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, you got to just take the position away, take anything away. When I think about teams making runs in March, it's like guard plays. Word to Rob on this. Like, my favorite March memories are watching UConn's guards and point guards make plays in March and make extreme runs in March. Like, JD Notae is a guy who can explode for runs, as we've seen during this year, and that will translate to March for me. So the fact that they have that, and it seems like they have a team with defined roles as well, as Sweeney pointed out, you have a bunch of guys on this team that I think play their role to the best of their ability. They know that Notae's the guy who needs to get them the bucket when they need it. And they got guys who are playing their role defensively. Jalen Williams has been huge in the middle for them, as you said as well, Sweeney. So they're playing extremely well right now. And they're, yes, hell yeah, I want some stats on that. Love stats
on Jalen Williams. So they lost. Arkansas had that stretch where they lost 6 out of 7 in like late December, early January. Since they've been hot, when they've run 13 of the last 14 games, Jalen Williams is averaging 14.5 points during that stretch. He was averaging just over 4 points. We call that the Carter Elliott special when they were struggling earlier on this season. Last year,
2 strikes, Rob, relax.
Last year, the same kind of thing happened, right? Justin Smith got hurt. They lost 4 out of 5. He came back. They went on that tear. I think it was 16 of their last 19 games they won when Justin Smith was at the 5. When they get that kind of versatile, I don't want to say small ball because Jalen Williams is like 6'11" and 245 pounds. He ain't small, but he can step out on the perimeter,
pull you away from the basket.
Yeah, that's what he did to Shibwe. That's how he kind of was able to take advantage of him down the stretch. I think he had the last 10 points, last 12 points for Arkansas, something like that. He had a nice little stretch where he was.
He had a big jump hook late with about a minute to go. Put him up 4, I think, right there.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about point guard play there, guys. Does that mean, let's go directly into Auburn here? They went on the road and they lost at Tennessee by 5. Wendell Green was a problem again, and not in a good way. He's shooting 27% from 3 in SEC play. When he's playing like that, Carter, can Auburn, Where do you view them? Because I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't know if they're going to be able to find a way to get it done if that's the dude that's running the show.
Yeah, for me, it's the fact that he doesn't really have another style of play. But so basically, he's going to play the same exact way, which as a basketball player, like I see that you want to play your game at all times. You don't want to be trying to do things that you're not used to doing. But also at the same time, some self-awareness has to come into play a little bit. Like you're not hitting shots, you're not making the right play. Maybe you should change things up for the betterment of the team. And also maybe that could help you, actually play a little better ball at the point guard position. So the fact of the matter is that's who Wendell Green is. And that's who he is for Auburn. Like you got to live with the greatness and you got to die with the low points. And right now it's not looking good.
He needs to read his own scouting report because he doesn't know his scouting report. He thinks his scouting report is I'm Damian Lillard, and no, like you're Wendell Green, right?
It seems like every time he plays, it's like the defense is like you can't shoot from there, and Wendell's like yes I can, and then he just misses. it's like you don't have to prove anything. Like they're like go ahead shoot it, Wendell. He's like all right I will.
That's the shot we want. That's the trick that you pull on everybody when you're at the park, right? Yeah, that's the shot we want.
Yeah.
Like hell,
he's with us.
Watch this air ball, right? Step back 28-footer air ball. That's a brick. Yeah, it's a concern. But how much of that, Steve? How much of that do you put on Tennessee? Like you got to give them some credit for that. They found a way to turn this thing around. It looked like the wheels were going to fall off there for Tennessee for a little while. But they figured it out. I mean, the top four in this conference is probably, I would say, the best top four in any league in college basketball this season. Is that crazy to say?
No, I like these four teams. And then you've kind of got that wild card team in Alabama, that's capable of beating anybody when they're right.
Where'd you go to school, Steve?
In Tuscaloosa. So, but, I really like Tennessee from the time I saw them in late August, early September. I love their coach. I love what he stands for, what he's about, the things that he values in a basketball team. And I think you saw that. That's why they're 12-4 in the SEC. And they've done a phenomenal job of really making a run late as well, like you just touched on. And to be honest, the way the schedule, if you really mapped out these teams' schedules, if Auburn slips up, they probably have the best schedule possibly because they got a home game against Arkansas to really share the conference championship. Kentucky would have to get beat at Florida, but I really like Tennessee. I like their guard play. They've got the two smaller guards in Ziegler and Chandler, but they are tough up front. And they won this game, man. They dominated Auburn on the glass. I mean, they just physically dominated them on the glass. And and just that, but that's Rick Barnes, toughness, rebounding, and defense.
Yeah. Sweeney, wrap it up with Kentucky. Are you concerned about them at all? Or is this just, life on the road in the SEC, life in Bud Walton Arena?
I still think they're a really good team, but I will say this. It seems like every game, it's a new excuse with Kentucky. When their guards don't play, it's, their guards didn't play. I guess the loss doesn't count. When they're healthy, they'll be good. Well, the guards played yesterday and they still lost, right? Like Sheboy gave them 30 and 20 and they still lost. Right? I think Kentucky is an elite basketball team. I think they're in top 5 to 10 team in the country. They have a real chance to go to a Final Four, win a national championship. But I think that at some point they have to win the big one. And they've had two big road opportunities against Tennessee and now against Arkansas, and they haven't gotten it done in either game. So look, I don't know what percentage Savia Whaler and Ty Washington were yesterday, but they had those guys out there that played normal minutes and they couldn't quite get over the hump. So I do want to see Kentucky get that elite win before we put them in that true they're the best team in the country conversation.
Yeah, I do think there's something to be said about the fact that you mentioned it earlier. The way to slow down Purdue is to slow down Sasha Stefanovic, right? Well, maybe the way to slow down Kentucky is to run Kellen Grady off of the 3-point line. I think he took 3 shots the other night. They were face guarding him. They didn't let him get it going. They played off of Severe Wheeler. They played off of Keon Brooks. And to me, that was just kind of what it was. Like you take away the space for everybody else. You don't like Kellen Grady to get shots going. And you just kind of say, hey, look, if we're going to get beat by Oscar Tshiebwe 2s in offensive rebounds, we're going to get beat by Oscar Tshiebwe 2s in offensive rebounds. All right. I'm going to put each of you guys on the spot before we head to our next break here. Steve, Who is the most likely team out of the SEC to get to a Final Four? One word answer.
Auburn.
Sweeney.
Arkansas.
Ooh. Carter.
Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm landing on Kentucky with that one too. I'm going to stick with Kentucky. I'm going to say they still have a ceiling. Listen, coming up next, we have a game that we're going to play. It's called Take Your Pick. I have 5 questions. I'm going to make these guys answer. I'm going to put them on the spot. It's going to be tough. They're going to be sweating it out. You're going to want to listen to this. You're not going to want to miss.
Clear, 90 seconds.
All right. Go ahead, Steve.
I was saying, here's my take with Auburn. Everybody wants to write them off. They're 13-3 and like maybe the best league in the country. And the 3 losses are a total of 5 points. They all came down last possession. They were all on the road.
That's true.
Yeah.
But they lost those games. Those are all games they should have won to me. Like they were up in those games.
Well, the Arkansas, that was a bad shot. I mean, they should have, put pressure on the basket. They had a chance in regulation. I didn't see the Tennessee. I just saw the score. But Florida,
Tennessee,
Florida's one they should
final
go
possession against Florida. That was a really bad.
That's what I was. That was more
the Florida game at the last possession, and and then the Arkansas. But I mean, man, 3 games on the road, you lose by 5 points, and they're still in first place.
You know what my issue? You're 100% right, Steve. You know what my issue with it is, though? My issue is that it's the same thing that's causing these losses. Right. It's the same. Okay. We're in a final possession situation. We can't get a good look.
30.
We're in a final possession situation. We turn the ball over. We have a point guard that is shooting 27% from 3 in league play that is taking bad shots. It's less the fact that they're losing close games and more the fact that it's like, okay, I see that coming up and being something that bites them in the ass in a 1-game knockout situation where you're not going to be able to come back
10.
the next night and go get it back. So that's, I don't know. It's just
it's a pattern developing, basically. It's a pattern.
Yep. We are live. This is the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live on Sirius XM Channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We are streaming on YouTube. If you're watching there, hit that like button. Jump in the chat. Ask us some questions. We're going to answer them in the afters. That is coming up next. If we get to 100 likes, we have a very special surprise for you. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Carter Elliott. I have Steve Prohm. I have Kevin Sweeney here with me. We're going to play a little game. It's called Take Your Pick. I have 5 questions. I'm going to hit you guys with it. You have 20 seconds to answer. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to make you guys have to answer. You're going to have to put your thinking caps on. It's going to be a little bit stressful. I'm going to be putting you guys on the spot, but we're going to do this thing. All right, you guys ready for the first one?
Ready.
All right. Prohm, I'm going to you first on this one. It's a little bit of a coaching question. You have a little bit more coaching expertise than anybody else on this call right now. So there's 1 minute left in the game. You're on the road. You're down by 1. You are Matt Painter. Your team has the ball. You have no timeouts left. Is Zach Edey or Trevion Williams on the floor for you? You have the ball down 1, no timeouts on the road.
Zach Edey.
You're going Edey?
I'm going Edey, and obviously, they do a phenomenal job of executing in half court and getting the ball inside, and they've got a bunch of counters, to their main stuff. They're really good I think, on the offensive end. Get it in there, get him something easy.
Sweeney?
I would take Trevion. I worry. I know Edey's a better free throw shooter. That's the only thing that kind of holds him back here. But, I think Trevion will be a little bit better defensively, if you're getting up and down the floor. And he's a little bit more, he's had some clutch shots in his career. Like, he's been in those moments. I don't think there's a moment you can look on it and say Zach Edey had that game-winning bucket. I think you look back, Michigan State last year, Trevion Williams has gotten the ball in big spots and won a ball game. So I give it to Trevion.
Who were they playing when you had Trevion Williams in a big spot and he got the ball in the post after a big comeback when they were down in the first half? Who was that against, Carter? Do you remember that?
Yeah. So anyways, let's stick to the game here. I'm gonna be going with Trevion Williams as well. Kind of the same points as Sweeney. I just think he brings a little bit more as far as the passing. Maybe doing a little bit too much with those sweet passes, and maybe needs to take back the dream shakes just a little bit. But I'd rather have him on the floor. He's been there before. I've seen him do it to my team. So, I'm rolling with Travion on that one.
I think I would go Edey just because I'm more confident in finding a way to create some kind of bucket or some kind of good look with Edey on the floor. And I would just bet on the fact that whoever's the other coach is going to call a timeout to set up a play, which would allow me to get Edey off the floor and have a prayer of maybe getting a stop. All right. Question number 2. Carter, I'm going to you on this one first. Who do you trust more? Kansas with Remy Martin or Kansas without Remy Martin?
Kansas without Remy Martin.
Ooh. Wow.
Yes, I trust them without Remy Martin. I can't separate. I might be flawed for this, but I cannot separate the Arizona State Remy Martin. Like it's installed in me. It's instilled in me as a player. I can't separate the two. It's still there. No matter how much you want to say it's not there, it's somewhere in there and it's going to come out in March. I feel like, so I'm going without Remy Martin.
Sweeney.
I'll say with. I thought that Kansas did a nice job, and DeJuan Harris did not play great. He didn't shoot the ball well yesterday, but I was encouraged by the fact that, Bill Self didn't rip up what has worked for them for the last, month and a half with Remy on the sideline. And that was DeJuan Harris has been an integral part of what you do. Let's use Remy as more of a kind of a energy scorer. And he got him 2 buckets in 10 minutes. I think there's value for him in a 15 to 20 minute kind of 6-man role to hit shots and let DeJuan Harris still be the team's point guard.
Pro?
With DeJuan Harris, I just think the team's more comfortable like that. Looks to me like coach is probably more comfortable. But I think Remy's, obviously coming back now, they're going to need him, because of depth and foul trouble and different situations that are going to come in tournament play. But I think, DeJuan Harris in that rotation is what I trust the most.
So I like them with Remy Martin just as the change of pace, just to have that other guy that can go out there and maybe get you a bucket. They've been playing a little bit faster, and if there's one thing that Remy Martin can do, he can get up and down the floor and take a bad shot. And I do think that just being able to have that other element in the way that you're going to play is something that would be a little bit effective, especially if they continue with this small ball thing. All right, you guys ready for question number 3? Sweeney, you're getting this one first. There's 10 seconds left in the game. Your team is down by 2. You have the ball. Who do you want at the point? Wendell Green or Andre Curbelo?
Oh, man. This is rude. Who's more likely to pass the ball?
Bello. It's Bello.
I think it's got to be Bello. Yeah. Let's go with Curbelo.
Carter, who do you got?
Sweeney as a coach's mindset just really threw me off because we just asked if he had the ball with 10 seconds left and you're worried about him making a pass. Like, what are we talking?
Well, I don't want either of them shooting it.
Oh no, give me Wendell Green. Let's not forget. All right, he might have had some issues these past couple games, but he still got that in his game. Give me Wendell Green. You can sag off Curbelo. You can't sag off Green.
Prohm, who you got?
Give me Curbelo. I think you saw him make big plays when he came back. Golly, what game was that where they had the incredible comeback and he kind of willed them, man. It's just right when he came back.
Purdue. They had the Purdue game too when he had the
Purdue. I think it was the Purdue game. And, he made big plays. He can finish at the basket. He can create. And I think in the 10 seconds, if you have 10 seconds, that gives you plenty of time with space to make a play, whether it's for himself, Kofi on a drop-off, or he's spread around with Frazier, Grandis and Plummer, guys that can really shoot the basketball. So I would go with Curbelo.
Mm-hmm. I think I would go with Curbelo too, just on the off chance that you need somebody to make a pass. We've seen Wendell Green try to make some of those passes, and it did not go well at Florida. So I would think I would go with Andre Curbelo in that spot. All right, question number 4. The day is Monday, March 28th. It is the Monday after the second weekend. The Final Four is now set. Who is alive? Duke, the team with all of the talent in the world and none of the point guard play, or Villanova, the team with all of the point guard play and none of the talent? Prohm, I'm going to you first on this one. Duke or Villanova more likely to make the Final Four?
Villanova. There's something about Colin Gillespie, man. I guess Carter must not like Colin Gillespie, but, he's won his whole life. He brings a toughness, to that team, and that team knows how to win. Obviously, Duke is super talented, and obviously it'd be I was listening to great radio this morning. Obviously, it'd be great for Krzyzewski to get back to the Final Four this year in his last year. But with a lot of youth out there on the floor in the NCAA tournament, man, things happen. And, man, the road to the Final Four is not easy. And there's upsets along the way. And Villanova's older, they're experienced, and their point guard's been a part of a lot of winning.
Sweeney?
I'm going to have the cop-out answer first of saying I think that Duke has a better chance to win a national championship and Villanova has a better chance to get to the Final Four, if that makes sense.
Ooh,
it doesn't
that's
make
not
sense.
the game.
No, there's no cop-outs. We got 2 minutes left in the show. Give us an answer. We need an answer.
If I need a Final Four team, I would say I trust Villanova a little bit more. I think they're a little bit more composed in big moments. They've been in so many of them. They have the experience in the backcourt. Eric Dixon has really come along. I think Duke has a little bit more upside, but I would say Villanova.
Carter, I think we know the answer.
I'm actually picking Villanova. I'm picking Villanova because because I talked about guard play in March, and I think Jeremy Roach is a fine basketball player, but I don't think Final Four point guard. I think at least Villanova has a point guard who's played a lot of basketball games, so that'll be good for them.
There's your compliment for Colin Gillespie from Carter Elliott for the show.
Yeah, and you know what, you guys are all nuts. Give me the team that is 25-4 that is lost by 5-2 in overtime by 1 and by 1 at home to Virginia and has 4 first-round picks and maybe 5 first-round picks on the roster. All right, we got a minute left here for the last question that I'm going to ask you. The day is Monday, March 21st. The first weekend is officially over. Who is still alive? St. Mary's or Murray State? Carter, you got 15 seconds.
Murray State.
Why?
Well, because you gave me both options, and I think Murray State's a better basketball team. So
there you go. Sweeney, who you got?
I think I lean Murray State. The guards are so good and so athletic, and they're unflappable in late game situations. We saw that this weekend.
Prohm, you got 30 seconds to let me know all about Murray State. Let's
go. Murray State, I just think the balance, and I think we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. Matt was on here talking about it. I just think the balance, the efficiency on both ends of the floor, the guard plays, I think, elite. They got a legitimate wing that I think's got a chance to play in the NBA one day, and they've got a size with KJ Williams that I think has a chance to do special things down the road. And Juice Hill has been phenomenal, and they've got guys bought into their roles. So I hope it happens. Be the first time. Murray's had some great teams, some great runs, and they've always kind of came close. So hopefully this time it'll happen.
Yeah, they also have a bunch of guys that have been through some wars of late. The last 4 games that they played on the road, they were losing at halftime. But listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. We're heading over to YouTube right now. We're going to have the After Dark Afters. Is going to be enjoyable. We're going to answer questions from the chat. I might have something special in line with this shooting. So for Carter Elliott, for Kevin Sweeney, for Steve Prohm, for producer Greg Waddell, my name is Rob Dauster. Thanks for being here.
All clear?
Hey, Carter, can I ask you a question?
Of course, Rob, anything.
What's more important than peace of mind?
I don't think anything's more important than peace of mind.
Nothing is. That's why NordVPN is here to give you peace of mind while you are online. With all of the threats that you face today on the internet, it is more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN that you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything that you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all of your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection, and plans start at just under $4 a month. That's 1 Starbucks cup of coffee a month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Bleav or use the code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan plus 1 additional month for free. All right, guys, we have a couple questions in the chat. The first one from Nate: who is Carter?
I've been asking that same question all show.
Me. How you doing, Nate? Nice to meet you.
Oh, man. All right. This one is from Jay. Will Indiana make the NCAA tournament? And by the way, before you guys answer that, I just want to say We are currently at 79 likes. Get us 21 more likes so Carter will join me in a shotgun. I'm going to be throwing down this Shirley. I owe it from last night's show. We got to the threshold of 200 likes as we were signing off. Carter, let's go to you first on this one. Will Indiana make the NCAA tournament?
No, I don't know. I don't think that. I think they just faltered too much down the stretch. I think they had a couple games they could have won as well. And all they had to do to me was just remain solid and get a couple wins there. And they had wins as well. I think that's what's the most frustrating part. If I'm an Indiana basketball fan, all you have to do is close out those games that you had won that were very winnable and you should have won coming into the game. And they weren't able to do that. And they just don't have the look of an NCAA tournament team to me. So I don't see them making it.
Any disagreements, Sweeney, Prohm?
I think they got to win Wednesday night. I think if they beat Rutgers, it keeps them alive. Obviously, if they were go to Mackey and win, which I don't think they will, I think they've got. I look at it as beat Rutgers, the Purdue games. Hopefully you could get that one. But if you don't, man, let's get a good win in the conference tournament and then let's see what happens. But do we have them in right now? What does feeling of 68 say?
I think that they were one of the last four in. Let me double check on that. I'll do that right now. Sweeney, go ahead.
I'll say this. I think the Rutgers game is almost like a first four game. Like it feels that much like a playing game for the NCAA tournament for both these teams. I think it'd be really hard to keep them out. If you have 19, potentially 20, if you get a conference tournament win, 19 total wins, you go 10-10 in the Big Ten, one of the toughest leagues in the country. You have an elite win over Purdue team that's going to be a top 3 seed. Again, you have a good win over Ohio State. You have a neutral court win against Notre Dame. You really don't have a bad loss necessarily. I mean, at Syracuse, not great. At Penn State, not great. But neither of those are losses that take you out of it. To me, I think it's really hard to keep them out if they can beat Rutgers. Will they? We'll see. But if they can beat Rutgers, I think they should be in the NCAA tournament.
All right. Pro, I'm going to go to you on this one. Do you see Marquette? Do you still see Marquette as a team that can pull off an upset or two in March? I believe right now Fielding the 68 has them projected as a 6 seed. So that would mean got an 11 in the first round, maybe someone like a Murray State in the first round. And then you would have to pick off like a 3 seed. So
yeah, I do. I think they can get to the second weekend. Whether it happens, who knows? But I really do. I like their team. I like their toughness. They defend. They compete. They got good size. I think offensively they've been really good. I like their team. I think Shock has them playing with a swagger. I know they've lost a tough game with Creighton, and they struggled a little bit against Butler this past weekend, but I like Marquette, and I think they have a chance, obviously, to be a good seed, 5, 6, 7. That's a good seed, and obviously get through that first weekend.
Mm-hmm. Sweeney?
Yeah, I think they have the potential. I think you've seen all year long they've been a little bit streaky, and I think a lot of that has been whether the threes are falling, but in the moments when they've really shot it from 3, they're really tough because they guard. Justin Lewis is a star-level player. Morcel's tremendous, and they've got guys who really buy into their role. I think that's a good recipe. And, if you can hit 10 threes in an NCAA tournament game, you like your chances. And they've certainly got the pieces on this roster to do that on any given night.
Yeah. Prohm. So we just had a question. Who is the better transfer pickup this year? Alfonso Plummer or James Akinjo? I don't want to talk about that, but it is a segue into Baylor beating Kansas yesterday. And we haven't really touched on that game yet. So I want to pick your brain on this a little bit. You coach obviously in the Big 12 last season. So how is Baylor back? Like how concerned are you about what they are without Jonathan Chamachachwa? I think that is a big loss for them. I think the fact that they don't have the shooting with LJ Cryer is huge, but coming back from the early punch that Kansas threw yesterday and winning that game at home, I thought was a pretty big statement from the Bears.
Yeah, I thought it was huge. And obviously they had a short rotation yesterday. They only played 7 guys. But Thamba, in a game where he had to be big and where they need more from him, he has his probably best game of the year where he gets 18 points and 8 rebounds. But I thought they had a lot of guys step up. I think we talked about when the injury to JTT happened, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to play small ball with Tamba at the 5, or they're going to put Brown or Jeremy. How do you pronounce his last name?
Sohan.
Sohan at the 5 and go small, and that's what they've done. And I think their guard play is very, very good. They need to get Eldrick Carr back for another experienced shooter. But I like a Kenjo Meyer, Cryer, those guys. I think they're very good, and I think they showed a lot last night to where if they can go to win at Texas, they're going to keep a lot of pressure on Kansas to share the Big 12 title.
Yeah. What do you think, Carter?
Yeah, no, I think I think that this coaching job by Scott Drew, I mean, we all know that Scott Drew is a great coach, but I think like in situations like this where coaches face adversity and they have injuries, one, it's great to see players step up and have bigger roles. So players like Sohan, Brown, like Coach said, seeing them step up is great, but also seeing a great coach make adjustments to what he has and with injuries, I think that's really testament to what Baylor's doing right now. And they kind of fall in the same mold as me as for a team that's taken lumps throughout the year. So they've had these injuries. They've had guys out, like in Illinois, I would say. So they're battle tested. They're playing in the Big 12. They had these injuries. They had to play through that, coming off a national title last year, losing all these NBA guys. And we're still talking about how good of a basketball team they are. So I'm all in on this Baylor team. And also the fact that it's a Kenjo, Meyer, and Cryer, that's just a bar in itself. That's another reason why I love this Baylor basketball team.
So I think that I have a very hard time fully buying into them when they're basically playing 6 guys, right? Like Dale Bonner is fine, but he's not really a threat, and he's just kind of a body out there because you have to have someone play some minutes. They basically go 6 deep at this point. And to me, that's very difficult to do when your second rotation or your second team is playing a guy in a position that hasn't really played all season long, where you're throwing Sohan at the 5, right? Before Chachua got hurt, they never did that. Their lineup was basically you would get 20 minutes with Thamba and 20 minutes with JTT. So I think that it's difficult to change what you want to do in the middle of the season and to play with only 6 guys. Now, if they get Cryer back and you get that spacing and you get that shooter and you get the guy that can create a little bit more space for Kenjo to go out there and do his thing, I think that's big. Prohm, I also want to hit you on a question about Kansas. It feels like they're starting to play a little bit more up-tempo here, right? It looks like they're trying to put a little bit of an emphasis on getting out in transition, getting up quicker shots, maybe not having to rely so much on getting stuff in the half court, knowing that they're not able to kind of think McCormick, he's been up and down. I think he's got a bad knee now or banged up or something. Are you seeing that as well? And has Bill done, has he ever played like an up-tempo team like that before?
Well, I mean, I think what he's done too is like we talked about Baylor, he's played a lot of different ways. I mean, you look at years back, I mean, it was 2 game, and we're going to high-low you, and we're going to play through these 2 bigs. And obviously he's always had great players, at the wing and obviously the guards, you go Mason Graham, just a recent date. But I think some of it, a lot of people now are trying to take Agbaji away. If you can play in transition a little bit more, it gets him some opportunities, gets him maybe some easier looks. But I really like Kansas. I mean, I know that was a tough one for them last night. I knew it was going to be a tough game for them. But I love Braun. I think he's a really, really good player. Agbaji, I just think his leadership and toughness and ability to make plays. And then Wilson, I think that's the X factor is really Wilson. Mm-hmm. I think you kind of know Braun, Agbaji. Wilson's kind of here and there. And if they can get him to kind of complete that wing, then their point guard play can be solid because Harris not going to hurt you, and he knows what coach wants. And then they'll just rotate in at the 5. I mean, he'll throw everybody out there if he needs to, whether it's Lightfoot, McCormick, he'll go Adams, he'll go young players, he'll throw them freshmen off the bench, and Clements. But I love Kansas. I think they're really good.
Where would you rank Kansas in terms of national title contenders? Are they in that top tier? Do you think that even with this loss, they can get a number 1 seed? Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think they can certainly get a 1 seed. They're, them and Baylor came into yesterday as the only 2 teams with 10 Q1s. Baylor obviously jumps them to get to 11, but they have a tremendous resume. the two star players. I've been a little bit more down on Kansas's national championship hopes, to win 6 because of the questions at the point and the questions at center. And I thought McCormick yesterday didn't necessarily remove those questions. He was really good on the glass, but he just wasn't great around the basket. Shot only 4 for 11. And so I still don't necessarily love them among the top 5 or 6 teams that you really buy into nationally. But I really thought they played a whale of a game yesterday. I mean, you're on the road in a really, really tough environment in Waco. Baylor was up for that game. Obviously, Kansas punched them in the mouth early, but they really battled, man. And I thought Brown was really solid. Took him a little while. I thought to get it going with Flagler on him, but found a way. Agbaji did his thing. Like, I think they're really good. I think the point guard and the center stuff hold me back from really buying into them as like a team that I want to pick as a national champion. Like I don't see myself filling out my bracket on Selection Sunday and coming away with Kansas as my champion. Does that mean that they can't win it? No, but I don't see a way where I'm going to fill out the bracket and say I'm picking Kansas to win it all. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. But the only reason why I'm not afraid of them is that it feels like every team in college basketball we're saying, yeah, they'd be great if they only had point guard play, right?
That's
like
true.
How many teams are we saying like they have great point guard play? And like, look, that is we made this joke last night on After Dark. Like, we need a little counter in the corner of our show so that people kind of see, like, you hear the ding every time someone says point guard play. But I mean, it's a thing, right? Like, you having a great guard in March. If you go back, I've made this point 100 times, but if you go back all the way to 2010, every team that's won the national title has basically started 2 point guards, with the exception of 2012 Kentucky, who started a first round pick at the point and had the top 2 picks in the draft in Anthony Davis and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Everyone else has had 2 guards. In last year, right? It was Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler. In 2019, it was Kihei Clark and Ty Jerome. In 2018, it was Jalen Brunson and whoever else you want to put out. They basically had 4 point guards on that Villanova team. You go all the way through the line. So not having great point guard play is going to matter. Listen, we are over 100 likes, but I do have a question, guys. Carter, do you know someone named Megan?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I'm married to a Megan.
Yeah. So there is a Megan Elliott in the chat right now, and she wanted to. She had. It's not really a question, but she kind of had a comment. You know what it says?
What did it say?
It says in all caps, "We want a Carter shotgun."
We do want a Carter shotgun.
I mean, you know what they say: happy wife, happy life. So let's get this thing cracking. Do I gotta wait for Dauster because I know he's gonna take his time? Maybe it can be like I do it, then he does it.
No, hold on. Let me just. This is gonna.
He's had more trouble opening his drink over the last couple nights when I've been here.
Yeah.
You may need to send him.
I'm about to put on for Albion College with this one.
You may need to send him that instrument.
Oh, there you go, Rob. You go, Rob. All right, in with the teeth. Professional.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready. Hold up. Try to do all that with my teeth. I actually do need to use my little opener here. Okay, we're good now. Oh yeah.
It's for the likes, Carter. It's for the clout.
It is. And I'm throwing on my Michigan State victory shades as well.
Oh, the victory shades are back, baby.
Oh, they're back. They have not been here in about 7 games, but they're back.
Prohm, is this what you signed up for when you joined the show?
I didn't know this was going to be on this.
All right, you ready, Carter?
I'm ready. Shout out to the chat.
Yep.
Illa 68 till I die. Terrence Oglesby.
Yeah.
Till I die. Nothing but nightmare fuel in that can. Beautiful.
This was the Field of 68 After Dark, guys. Thank you for being here.
Hey, we didn't do 3 cheers.
Oh,
Rob's struggling.
3 cheers. Go ahead. Start. Someone else started. Go ahead. Prohm, you take it away. Prohm, you go first.
All right. Hey, 3 cheers. I will go to Illinois. Great win today on the road to keep chances of still winning a share of the Big Ten championship. So congrats. Cheers to Illinois. Kevin?
This is lame, but cheers to college basketball. That was a heck of a weekend. We're going to have one like that again. So cheers to college basketball, man. That was awesome.
Cheers to college basketball. I like that.
Cheers to college basketball on an after dark college basketball show. Spam tomatoes in the chat for Kevin Sweeney. That was bad. All right. I'm gonna give credit to the little guys because I'm a D3 basketball player. I'm a little guy. I want to give credit to the Nebraska Cornhuskers that Rob shitted on earlier today because they picked up their second conference win on the road. Hoiberg, coach, fresh off knowing he's coming back next year. Shout out to my guy. He got a win on the road at Penn State. So, pay homage to them. Give them their respect.
That was the most disrespectful intro. You were like, I'm a D3 guy, like the little guy. How about Nebraska? That was so disrespectful.
Well, here's the thing. So I am also a D3 guy. I also like the little guy. I'm going to give a shout out to my alma mater,
of course,
Vassar College Brewers, for the first time in program history they advanced to the NCAA tournament this year. They got a win. They beat Skidmore, who is our rival, by 15 in the Liberty League tournament title game. They will be dancing in March. So to the Vassar College Brewers, by the way, the Vassar College Brewers, cheers.
Elite name.
Is there a reason why Skidmore is your rival? Because like Skidmore, I was going to say
you beat a team called Skidmore. Like a skid.
I ran a 5. My brother ran a 5K.
You mean like Skidmark? Yeah. Skidmark. Yeah. It's actually it's a beautiful campus. Saratoga Springs.
It's great. Yeah. Love Skidmore.
They got the racetrack there. Yeah. It's a beautiful campus. They suck.
We didn't talk about the Memphis Tigers, man, keeping their hopes alive. Big win today, man. It's a big week for them.
Cheers to the Tigers.
Cheers to the Tigers. You beat a bad Wichita State team. Congratulations. Yeah. Well, listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. This was fun. So for Carter Elliott, for Kevin Sweeney, for Steve Prohm, for producer Greg Waddell, my name is Rob Dauster. We will see you guys again tomorrow.